I'm Nick Goodman. I'm a product manager here at Microsoft. I'm also one of the, here's the conditional access agent. So a couple things to pay attention to. I'm just going to highlight them. A lot of the screens are going to look really similar. And that's because Security Copilot's a platform. It's behind all of these products. It's behind all those third-party products that I mentioned earlier. And so the things like the decision tree that helps the human understand how the agent made his decision, that's common. The concepts of identity and RBAC management, that's common. So there's some of these that will be somewhat repetitive, and I may fast forward through them in the interest of time. But the idea with the agents is primarily to focus on the business use case, but I want to make sure to show you this one too. Okay, so here we are in Intra. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Again, same concepts. I can see how it's triggered, what permissions it requires, what licenses it requires. It runs in the background, and when it gets running, starts running, we start to see it scanning policies. There are guardrails on this one that I'll show you here in a minute. And it starts making recommendations about what we can do. And so these recommendations are things that effectively are policies that it's recommending that we add. And so we might see things like MFA policy or device compliance policy. Just like all of the other things that we've been showing you, these are designed to be human in the loop. They're designed where you're making the decision, you are still in charge. The AI is not changing state in your environment without your knowledge. Again, I see a summary of what's going on, and I can drill in to see the details. Again, really similar UI here. The idea is this decision tree is it shows you the steps that the agent took. It's got tags on it so that you can understand what's important. I can click on them for details. And it really covers the full flow of the agent. So it's creating this transparent path, which allows you to debug. It also, if you've got an organization that's maybe highly regulated, needs to be able to say that, hey, my operations that use AI are responsible. These approaches are part of how we deliver on our responsibility. And at the end of it, there's a policy recommendation that it's making, or multiple in this case, actually. And I can drill in and take a look at it. And so the policy is going to show me here's the policy changes. You know, if I didn't know this was AI powered, I might not realize that it was AI powered. And so one of the ideas, again, is to have the process the person is used to, the product the person is used to, have the AI built directly into it. And we still have warnings to help you know that it's an AI process that you're seeing. Now, I also have the ability to drill in here. I'm going to have it drill in and take a look at the actual data. So policy is just a JSON document. So I can also get the diff of what's actually changing. I don't have to necessarily read over the page. So when I apply the policy, this is what will happen. And again, we're now down to button click deploy of the updated policy.
So Lars, here I have a question.
Yeah,
because configuring conditional access can suddenly prevent many users from getting access, like you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to get some statistics before you apply such a policy that users within the past week will now no longer be able to log on because of this change?
Very good question. That's absolutely the type of thing that people have concerns about with this agent. And you couldn't have asked a better question for my next couple of slides here, because these are the guardrails. So I'll answer it, and if I didn't answer it here, like within a slide or two, holler at me. So your guardrails are pretty much your basics, things like triggers, but you also get to control what it can operate on. So what we've heard from our design partners and customers is that the most important guardrail is the new users and new applications, and they often don't want the agent making policy recommendations for new users and new applications within a 24-hour span, and that giving you the choice to apply it to those seems to help a lot with preventing some of the worst types of problems that can happen. And then, again, also these policy choices and the checkboxes down here about MFA and auth strength, these are based upon actual learnings from customers about where this agent can go off the rails and what type of guardrails you might want. You can also apply custom natural language instructions up front here so that you could say, I really want you out of this area, don't do this, or other sorts of things. I think, let me see if I think I might have another one on here to show on this. Sorry, let me speed it up slightly. So yeah, again, you might want to always exclude users with a break glass account from an MFA policy adjustment. Sorry, I got to speed it up a little bit here. Do I have? Yeah, so these are the primary guardrails that we have implemented based upon customer feedback. I'm curious how well does that answer your question?
Yeah, at least you have some guardrails there, but it would be nice to have some, and also more than 24 hours, I think would be great.
Okay, good feedback. Thank you. Okay, so showed you all the guardrails. Let's see here. It also, like the other ones, shows KPIs. And again, you'll see each of these agents has a little bit of its own flavor. The data is the same, the concepts are the same. It's just designed to fit within the workflow of the user. So you will obviously see some difference between what an IT administrator, identity administrator is looking for and what the security admin is looking for. Fast forward it through time here as it protects lots of people. Cool. So that's the scope of my demos. What other questions can I answer for you all?
So one of the things that, Nick, that you mentioned was that somebody might not even be able to tell that it's Copilot behind there, which I think is great. But how do we go about telling extended team members that Copilot's part of this, but it's also human interaction or human in the loop with it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, and there's a couple of things that you want to probably care about there. Probably first and foremost is AI could make mistakes. We all know this. And you want humans in the loop, humans to review. And so I'm going to back up on my slides and show you some examples of the things that you'll see in the product to help. Okay, let me go back. So we tried to design the user experiences for it to be feasible, easy for humans to figure out that AI is involved.
Nick, I don't want to interrupt. Are you currently sharing your slides because we don't see them?
I'm almost there.
Okay, just double checking.
Okay. So here's an example. Continue to share. Yeah, so here's an example. So you'll notice there's an agent tag on each row that the AI operated on. And the idea there is, even in this big list view, I should be able to pretty quickly find it. And because it's a tag, I can also filter for it. So I could build and save filters that help me easily find what AI has done. And then you'll also see on here, when I look at the incident, it says that it's labeled as being operated on by an agent. You'll see labels like right here, AI-generated content may be incorrect. That's often paired right next to the thumbs up and thumbs down, where you can provide indication back to Microsoft that this agent is not working properly. It's also why, if I'm going to fast forward to this design right here, why we have a common decision tree that you'll see in here. It's not just about engineering efficiency. It's also about, if people are going to learn new ways of checking on AI, it's really helpful if the way they do it in Defender is the same as the way they do it in Intra, is the same as the way they do it in Purview. We can't have perfect harmony across all products and all aspects of the world, but we've tried to make sure that inside the security domain, at least, all of the user experiences are the same, so that once the security team goes, oh, I know, if I want to see how the agent reasoned about it, I go find the decision tree, I can drill in, I can look for things that are red, which tell me it thought there was something fishy going on. I can click on a node in the tree and it'll give me details. Train the user to be able to do the same thing over and over rather than have them do it, learn different processes for each product. So that's our kind of core approach to this.
And how do you get like the anti-spam versus the threat management to play well together? Is there a Copilot for that as part of Defender? And how do you deal with both things at the same time?
Elaborate a little bit more on what you mean there.
Well, just regular anti-spam that we know that most email providers have to worry about. And if I'm using 365 as my email or Exchange Online as my email processor, how are these things going to not stomp on each other or get in the way of each other?
Gotcha. At the moment, our approach on the AI side has been to be very targeted about where we apply AI. And so that's allowed us to think as we're developing it about questions like, how does this fit into the bigger workflow? And hopefully land the right design patterns that scale as we move AI into more of the like you said, the threat protection piece and the anti-spam piece. So that's really our approach is be very targeted with it right now and learn how to do it right so that as we scale up, we can continue to do it effectively.
Thanks.
One question on scale.
Yeah.
How should organizations estimate cost for agents? I know you have SCUs that cost $4 an hour or something like that. How much did this particular run cost? And
yeah, I'm actually surprised it took us till the 25 mark to get to cost. Right now, these agents are in preview, and for customers that already use Security Copilot, we've made that preview free.
Okay.
And that's partially so that we can learn how they perform in the real world from an underlying cost perspective, so that we can make sure that when we move them to being generally available, the costs make sense for the business cases that they do. So obviously, I'm not giving you a terribly direct answer about how you would do this, but you did intuit correctly. It's designed to be on top of the SCU. Our intention is absolutely to make it cost effective for customers to get the value out of these use cases. And it is a learning process, and we're in the preview stage in part so that we can learn that element so that it lands correctly when we get to GA.
What's the interactivity?
How interactive can you get with the agents? Right now, you sort of said, okay, well, the agents are running, for instance, on the email phish detection here, right? So it shows you that, okay, here's the list of alerts, and 75% of those were tagged with the agent, right? Is there any way you can go beyond that and say, okay, I want to ask the agent questions? Show me all the other emails that are like this that you tagged, or like this that you missed, or all those types of things?
It's not something that we have built today.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
We have not built that today.
Thank you.
Hey, Nick, looking at this from a temperature perspective of these agents, is there a possibility that we could see variance between what an agent recommends on one run versus another? Specifically, example would be, conditional access policy. One day it recommends that these, 14 user accounts get multi-factor applied, and then the next it's go use passwordless.
Oh, also a great question. When you think, yeah, and it's a natural question. Like you said, like you've got temperature settings and things like this, and we've all seen that with just prompting. There's both an art and a science to getting generative AI application to return consistent results. And so, like, we think about that intra-conditional access policy. Some of what drives consistency is our use of code, deterministic logic mixed with AI. So, for example, and state management. So, for example, if, say, I don't apply the policy recommendations, and I leave them in, I don't dismiss, but I leave, it says, hey, add multi-factor to these 16 accounts. That's still there the next day and the next day. So it knows that it has made the recommendation and that you've got it there. And so it's not going to recommend that again. It's also not going to automatically remove it because it was still a valid policy recommendation. To the question, though, of like, what if I just keep rerunning it? Well, the agent is designed to recommend the most valuable policy enhancements. And so, and I believe I think the parameter we have it set up now to do is to give you 3. And so it's always giving you the most valuable 3 policy enhancements. And so that is a stable list. So if you were to say, hypothetically run it and get it like reset and run it again, it would give you the same 3 policy statements over and over. And if you say apply number 2 and you open up a slot, well, then the 4th most valuable would then the next time it ran pop into that. And that's been a lot of the development work on the agent has been to ensure the consistency of the policy recommendations. Because you're right, because otherwise you could have a confusing system if it was constantly switching back and forth between the types of recommendations. The other thing it does, I didn't show at all, it tries to make a minimum set of policy recommendations, which is also an interesting art and science question, because I could have said, apply MFA to A, apply MFA to user B, to user C, to user D. I could create 16 policy recommendations to add MFA to 16 users, but the one that I have an example correctly lumped them together because it's the same policy. And a lot of the tuning of the agent has been to drive it into doing that sort of behavior, just against the human and the business process involved have the simplest path forward.
Awesome. So follow-up question. You said that it recommends the most valuable. How do you understand and how does it interpret what's valuable to the enterprise? Is it going off of trusted advisor score or security recommendations?
It's a good question. And there's obviously judgment involved in how we code that, how we design it. And reasonable people could disagree about some of those judgments we've made. It's effectively based upon our understanding of how to use these policies as effectively as possible, and based upon what we've learned interacting with customers. And the override piece is the guardrails I showed where you can turn pieces on and off, as well as the natural language instructions. So if you think Microsoft is particularly wrong about one element of a policy, of a type of policy, you can easily tell it, hey, I don't do it this way. Or alternatively, if you think something is way more important than our policies, kind of default ranking puts it, you could say, I really prefer this type of policy.
Gotcha. Is it also looking for things where, I liked your example where number 4 is on the list, but it's not shown yet. Could I end up in a scenario where number 2 is block XYZ country, for example, and then it comes back and says, no, go and block this region now that you've implemented that? Or is it just going to come out and say block the region?
So like policy 4 was a subset of policy 2.
Yep.
Should not happen the way this is designed.
Okay, perfect.
Nick, just a question on my side, Enrico Sorge. We expect, of course, that the use cases that you're launching are working pretty good on the Microsoft products boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you planning in the future also to interact with Microsoft ISVs and technology partners?
Yeah. Yes. Some of that happens today. So some of the agents have abilities to pull in third-party data. Threat intelligence, for example, is a space where many customers use multiple threat intelligence providers. And I believe our threat intelligence agent already has integrations with 2. I'm not going to name them because I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head if I would name them properly. And I don't want to do disservice to our partners. But I believe we've got 2 third-party integrations that if you've got a license to those TI vendors, they show up in the agent. This is an area we're exploring of how do we do this right, to incorporate the right intel into that agent. There's other obvious places where it's applicable. The Defender user-submitted phish agent could operate on emails from outside Microsoft. I mean, like email servers outside of Microsoft and email protection systems outside Microsoft. I don't believe we've built that yet, but it's the type of thing that we would like to do. Our general strategy here is to work with the customer's ecosystem. We've started with Microsoft because we have the resources on those teams that have been committed to go build the capability and the integration. We want the Microsoft version of it to be a great example and to be highly valuable. And we want third-party integrations both into our agents and third-party agents built on our system. So like the 7 agents built on our system, we worked with those teams, educate them and train them, and we're using that to inform like a more scalable model where we can bring in many more partners to help them build agents on top of our system.
Okay, and okay, so basically mostly on gathering data from other partners. But do you think that in the future a customer that maybe doesn't have a mainstream technology that can integrate it to the Copilot via API and then of course program it to interact with them in a specific?
Yes, the short answer is yes. There's complexity in doing that because like if the data source doesn't contain the information, it may be that the agent is incapable of doing the type of, like the agent has to have the data to do the type of reasoning it's designed to do. But the intention on these is to be able to operate on data wherever it lives. And to be able to trigger action, eventually be able to trigger action in the systems where the action needs to be triggered. And we do have agents. I don't want it to sound like it's just about data. Many of our third-party agents are not feeding data to Microsoft. They are using Microsoft's, like the Security Copilot AI reasoning engine, to do an agentic operation on data in their system that drives workflow in their system. I think of OneTrust is a really good example of this. They've got a cool privacy workflow. And there's really, it's Microsoft is providing data to them for shared customers, and we're providing the AI brain for the orchestration of their agent. And it's a very OneTrust centric process that they've built.
Following up,
About the privacy topic, that's link me to another question. Will be a moment on which Copilot will integrate with different technologies from the privacy perspective and data sovereignty. Is important to have a clear map where is working with and when. Are you planning to have
and we've taken steps in that direction. So Security Copilot is built to be audited, not by us, but by our customers. And so we emit audit logs and audit records into the audit system. The identity, we think identity is very important, both from a security and a privacy and an audit perspective. And so agents have an identity that allows, really empowers the customer to control what's going on and to govern it. Same thing with like each of the agents has RBAC permissions on it so that you can govern what data they have access to. So yeah, it's similar in many ways, the mental model of I'm bringing on a new human workforce. How do I govern what they have access to? How do I audit what they did access? And it's our intention to make this work smoothly for enterprises that have those needs.
just following up a little bit on what you mentioned about third party and OneTrust and the data flows that happen. Is the reasoning capability of pilots implement, I'm not sure if you can comment, as within your typical Gen AI model, because you referred to before that you have code as well controlling some of these things. Is the code, the non-Gen AI code that you've written, something that's outside of the reasoning model, or is that something that's inside the reasoning model?
Kind of an answer is both. If you think of it, so if a if a third party, so the non-Microsoft developer were building on top of our system,
Yes.
they get the full benefits of everything we've written. So the both in my answer was the AI platform itself has deterministic code and AI in it. All of that is available to everybody who builds on Security Copilot, regardless of what company they work for.
Okay, thank you.
Obviously, there's licensing and authorization and security checks to be in the ecosystem, but once somebody is in the ecosystem, they have access to all of this. The part of the reason I said both is a lot of times Security Copilot is interacting with existing SaaS products. Most of those existing SaaS products are primarily non-AI products, and so there's a lot of deterministic code in the things that we invoke and trigger and call.
What type of metrics are available for understanding your use of the agents and their success and those types of things?
Yeah, so there's a few different metrics. So you've got KPIs that are specific to the agents themselves. That could be things like resolution rate and time to triage. You also have common ones like success rates, latency. What are the other ones that are visible? I think those are the two common ones off the top of my head that are visible. But yeah, the idea is, again, with the agent framework exposes a certain set of core metrics back out to the products that use the agents.
How does, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
How does Security Copilot deal with like the problems of data exfiltration or data loss prevention, any of those types of things?
And when you say that, you mean from it or in assisting those workflows?
In detecting those things. Like, I don't know if it's supported by Security Copilot, much like a fish.
Yeah, so it can help on the triage piece. We don't currently have an agent that is actively doing detection in that space. It's definitely the type of thing our Purview product group is looking into.
Okay.
They targeted, it's an interesting question. Like when you look at what we targeted, you'll see 3 of the agents are about triage, and 3 of them are proactive. 2 of them are proactive policy effectively, and 1 is a proactive briefing. The 3 on triage, we picked them because that triage space is really great for AI because it's very human intensive work, or time intensive work that humans are doing and often see no value in doing, which just makes it like a really great space for AI. And then the 3 proactive ones, we love those because they're improving posture, they're reducing risk, and they save time. And we really like that and in the equation.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of things like, dealing with the false positives, the positive negatives, whatever, is that, every time I send around a test database that has credit card things in it, I want it to be not detected because I can say that this is not real data, it's test data, that kind of stuff.
Interesting. Yeah, so we've not built that sort of thing into the products, but I'll definitely, I'm happy, especially if you want to shoot me details of what you're interested in, happy to share it with the product group.
Yep.
Hey, Nick, this is Taylor Christensen. What are you thinking about or doing in terms of detecting RAG or model poisoning from like a customer has an insider threat problem?
Yes, so let's take the parts of that separately. And by the way, some of this content, I believe, is on our learn.microsoft.com page. I know a lot of people who ask this question have to send the answer along to their compliance teams. So we do have a pretty deeply detailed section on our documentation for this type of question. The short answer, though, is for the models, we control the models. There is not a bring your own model aspect. We're controlling the supply chain of the model, the hosting of the model, the execution. And so like that's Microsoft's responsibility and our responsibility matrix to control that. On the rag poisoning element, again, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm within the bounds of a non-NDA conversation. On the rag poisoning element, our system is designed to be resistant to that type of attack. And obviously, we don't control the downstream. In every instance, we don't control the downstream. You want to connect Security Copilot to an HTTP-based server that you run. You're responsible for the data in that server. So we don't control that, but our design is meant to be resistant to that type of attack. And if anybody is interested in the room online in that, the more deeper details of that question, and if you're a customer and have that type of request to get through your compliance process, we can definitely give you more detail than I'm able to give on a public recording.